James, absolute pleasure to have you on the show. Thanks for coming along.
Kaushik, thanks for having me. Absolute pleasure. I know we're going to have a fun conversation today.
Absolutely. Look, I'm really looking forward to diving into your journey with content, building your business, the success you've had with your podcast, and also just a good conversation around what you've been doing and what's actually worked well for your business. So, do you just want to give us a quick intro on who you are, what you do, and how you've got to this point?
Yeah, absolutely. Kaushik, thanks again, for sharing me with your audience, trusting me. So for anyone that's watching or listening, great to meet you. And in terms of who I am and what I do, so I don't sound like a Kiwi. I'm from Northern Ireland, but I truly am a Kiwi. Been here for almost 20 years. And what brought me to New Zealand was drumming. And I was very fortunate at a young age to win a number of world titles. I was a world solo drumming champion at 13 and again at 14, and then went on to win another 5 titles. So that gave me an opportunity to come to New Zealand and help a band here become the very first world champions and still the only world champions from New Zealand. And during that journey, it really forced me to think about what are the ingredients of high performance and consistent success. And there's 3 key things that came up there. Skill set, you've got to be good at what you do. And if you're creating content, same goes. Mindset, well, you can be good at what you do, but if you get nervous when you have to perform or do the thing or turn the camera on and speak to it, it's not going to work. And then last but not least, heart set. If you don't believe in what you're doing or don't believe in who you are, people can feel it, people can sense it, and you will not be a high performer. So for me, I've just take those 3 things and I apply them. So I now don't work with drummers. I work with Canterbury Rugby. I work with PGA athletes, people who are in the All Blacks, people who are running large companies, all around. What does it take to be the highest performer that you can be?
Cool. So how did this all start? So how did you go from being drumming in that environment and then pivoting into leadership, training and development?
Yeah. Honestly, it's the thing I think many of us think about. It's like we're in a career for a long time and we feel comfortable in the career. We're maybe getting paid okay, and there's no fear in it at all. It's very certain. Well, I started to get a bit bored and realized there wasn't much else I could achieve in that area. So, the people that I was working with, they'd won 11 or I think it was maybe 12 national titles in a row. They were world champions. I'd kind of achieved everything I wanted to achieve. And there was certainly, it's not from an arrogant, there's nothing else to do here point of view, but just I'm not really getting the same level of challenge that I used to. So I started looking at, well, what else do I enjoy? Well, I really enjoy working with people. I really enjoy helping people succeed and reach their peak potential. So a few friends were in sport. So I started chatting to them about some of the stuff I did. And they started going, hey, why don't you bring this into our team and chat to the team about it? It was very organic, Kaushik. And then I realized, okay, potentially there's a career in this. How do I change careers? And so at the start, it was very much a side hustle. So started building up the skills, learning how to coach, learning how to connect with others. Doing all the courses that we need to do, whether they're online or in person, getting certified. And then, as I think most creators and most people changing careers do, I went pro bono. That's right, I did it for free. And I took people on as one-to-one clients to see, can I actually do the thing for them that I've done for others and myself? And so I started building that belief, that heart set around what I could do. And there was probably 2 years there, Kaushik, that I was doing that on the side, the old side hustle, and still maintaining my job. But that was very quiet in the background. And I like to call it doing the work in the dark so that you can shine in the light. And I think that too many of us will start our side hustle and want to tell the world about it and Instagram about it. And I'm a believer in lock yourself away. Figure out what it is you want to do. Figure out what your skill sets are and aren't. Get to work. And then when you come out and bring yourself or your brand to the world, you've got a little bit of momentum. You've got a little bit of results, authenticity, credibility when you step into it. So there was definitely 2 years before I actually brought it to market.
Wow, 2 years of pro bono work. That's a lot of commitment and consistency that goes into it. What happened after the 2 years?
After 2 years, it was actually right before COVID. I thought, you know what? This is it. Like, I need to take a punt. I need to actually bet on myself and give this a go. So I resigned from my, very comfortable job at the private school teaching drums with 15 weeks a year of holidays. It was all looking very good. I said, no, I don't want any more certainty. I want to be challenged and I want to grow. So I started my own company. It's about 5 years now, and started with a small number of clients, and that built, and took me maybe 3 or 4 months to fill the books, and then they're talking and they're getting results and they're spreading organically what I'm helping them do. So in the first year, 6 months to a year, there wasn't really any content. It was all testing, getting feedback, getting testimonials, learning, falling flat on my face, really learning what works and what doesn't work. And then after that 6 to 12 months, I started going, okay, I can scale this a bit more. I can have a bigger impact. And so that led me to then step on to, okay, what does content look like for me?
Cool. Okay, let's dive into that. So when you say content, back then, what did that look like? And why did you decide to go down that path?
Yeah, so I felt like I needed to strengthen my reach in terms of widening it. Why? Because I've been here in Christchurch when we've had an earthquake and I've seen what happens. The city shuts down. If we get the Alpine fault ripping through, which we will at some point, hopefully not in our lifetimes, but I know businesses will close down. People will be bankrupt. Things will be very tough in the South Island for a long time. So as a business owner and someone who's wanted to put food on the table for his family, I thought I need to make sure that I broaden my reach, diversify where my client base is. So honestly, it was kind of out of necessity of potential future disaster that I started going, okay, let's use Facebook, Instagram. And it wasn't even really LinkedIn then at the start. It was Facebook and Instagram. Let's use those. I think that's where my people probably live and hang out. Let's start adding value. So I just started sharing stories and some tactics and just engaging with people. And slowly, I got a client in Oklahoma, then I got one in Albuquerque, New Mexico, then one in New York, and then one in Japan, like all over, but it took time. But the smile on my face after that was going, well, if things, get really bad here and we have a disaster, I'm diversifying and spreading the risk geographically so that I can still put bread on the table.
So how many, if you looked at it percentage-wise, how many are New Zealand-based and how many are based overseas in terms of your clients?
Yeah, so if I look at, I do a few different things in the business, but if I look at one-to-one clients, 60% of my clients are overseas.
Wow.
And so only 40% in New Zealand, about 20% in Christchurch.
And that's all on the back of content? Or is there other sorts of marketing or sales channels in the background?
No, I haven't really hit play on big sales like Facebook ads and stuff like that. I've only done that for events. The large event that I host once a year, I run ads for that. It's been organic, largely conversation, and then also just through content that I'm organically posting. And it's what's interesting, Kaushik. I was a drummer, and in my mind, my identity was I'm a drummer. It's James the drummer. And so I was really worried because I had 5,000 friends, in quotations, friends on Facebook. So I maxed out my personal Facebook. But I was thinking, they all follow me and connect with me because of drumming. And they're not going to want to talk about this coaching thing I'm doing and helping leaders and high performers. I was surprised. Actually, many of them have jobs. Drumming's just a hobby for them. Many of them work at large organizations. Many of them have relationship challenges. So when I was posting content on essentially my personal Facebook, man, oh man, it helped to build more clients. Wow. And I probably had about 5 or 6 clients in that first year and a half that came from the drumming world, my old world, and became coaching clients.
That's fascinating. I mean, that's a really good case study of good, value add content that actually works to bring people into your network. So when you put out the content, what do those conversations typically look like? How do they start? Is it something that you initiate, or is it almost always initiated by the viewers? And then what does it lead to?
Both. Yeah, it's interesting. So I like to vary my content, and I post regularly. In the early days, I found it overwhelming to post regularly, so I would just post when I could. But I hit a rhythm about 12 months in where I was posting 3 times a week. Just 3 posts a week on Facebook, on Instagram, and then I started on LinkedIn as well. I realized that you can't post the same thing on all the platforms because people are different on the different platforms and they want to see different things. So for me, the content was story. Here's a story of something that happened recently in the real world to me or a client. Here's the theme, here's the message, here's the learning, here's the takeaway, and here's a tactic that you can apply if this is helpful for you. And often that leads to either someone commenting or coming straight through DM or email, like, James, read the post, literally you're talking about me. I'm going through the thing you're talking about right now. Can we chat? And so I shared a post. Here's an example. So it's not a professional post. Hey guys, here's what I learned from 1,000 days alcohol free. And so I shared a short post, and then I also did a video and a podcast. But the short post was on, here's the 3 or 4 things I've learned about myself and my health and my bank balance from not drinking for 1,000 days. Man, oh man, I did not appreciate just how great the inbound was going to be after that. So many people like, James, how did you do it? James, can we chat? James, can I work with you? I'm like, I'm not an alcohol expert. I just, it's just something I've done. But actually that stimulated so many conversations that naturally, organically, over many months, led to more work, more opportunities, more keynote speeches. So yes, I think it's just being yourself. Don't try to niche down. The riches are in the niches, they say, right? That's what all of the American kind of brand experts say. I get it, and sometimes they're right. You are a niche yourself. And what I mean by that is bring your whole self to social media. I put some photos of my son up. I put some photos of me and my partner out traveling, or, a breakfast shot. I put some photos of my dogs up. I talk about alcohol free. I talk about alpha males and how we need to get rid of them. Like, I talk about everything that I'm interested in. The books I'm reading, I've got books all over the place. Like, they're around me. I like to talk about them. So be yourself. Don't try and think you have to be just posting about the business you run or the niche that you're in. Just be yourself.
That's valuable advice. And I think we often forget that business is done with other people. So it's people working with people. But because we label it as a business, it becomes this faceless facade that needs to have an identity and its own, its own pillar of this is what I do, this is what I talk about. But in reality, that's not the case. It's all people working with other people. So that takes me to connections. So you're posting content pretty regularly, 3 times a week. How are you building your audience? Are they coming to you organically, or are you actively going out and connecting, asking the right people to follow you or become part of your audience? What does that look like? What did that look like in the beginning?
Yeah, look, I'll be honest. I've never asked anybody, can you please follow me? I don't believe in that. I believe in genuine connection. And on LinkedIn, I'll have 3 to 5 requests a day that I will just deny because I don't know them. And it says, do you know this person? After you deny them, I say, I don't know this person. Why? I believe a platform like LinkedIn is truly about genuine connection, truly about connecting people that are like-minded or in a similar industry. So I'm a bit strict around that. Other platforms are very different. Instagram, anyone can follow. Facebook, similar. So in the early days, I was posting 3 times a week, and it was very, very slow growth, incredibly, like almost non-existent. Sometimes it went backwards. But I started to realize there were certain things that I posted about that did get engagement. And I thought, well, if I get engagement, even if it's not a lot, I just got to keep doing that. So I stayed the course. And sometimes I kind of shook my head going, what am I doing? Like, am I wasting my time? But I realized it's about building up the credibility bank deposit. Like, you've got to build up credibility. People got to know you're there. They got to know what you're doing. And you don't get that from one post a month or one post a week. People have got to see you show up regularly. So I'm posting, I probably have about 30 pieces of content a week now currently, and that's across LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, email newsletter, podcast, YouTube, shorts, reels. Like it's all lots of different things. In the beginning, the thought of that would have totally overwhelmed me. There's no way I would have started doing that. But again, play the long game. So I'm all about building it organically, building relationships organically. to see things come up on your algorithm and the feed saying that, so I think it's called content fries or something like that. Essentially, you shoot a video, pump it through this piece of software, and it'll give you 30 pieces of content. I'm asking you, for the listener and the viewer right now, don't do that, because it's so inauthentic. It's AI driven. It's not driven by you. So how I go about it is, one, I get clear on who I'm talking to. So I literally have a big, sitting right behind me right now, a big avatar of who's the person I want to talk to. What's their name? What do they look like? What are their wants, needs, likes, dislikes? So I know exactly who I'm talking to. And then I go, okay, what is it that I actually, do? What do people come to me for? Well, there's only a few small things that people come to me for. High performance, leadership, mindset, right? They want me to stand on stages and speak, or write articles for them, or coach them on those three things. So stick to my knitting. I want to stay in that lane. If I'm going to talk about alcohol free, I'm going to talk about it through the lens of mindset, or through the lens of high performance, or through the lens of leadership. I always keep that lens on. So it's like a set of glasses going, what are the things that I talk about? And how do I look at the world? So I'll create, say once a week, a solo cast. So it's me talking to video once a week. It's anywhere between 7 to 14 minutes. There'll be a topic: procrastination, relationships, alcohol, work, focus, all the different things that show up in all of our lives. And I'll talk to camera, and I'll be honest, Kaushik, very unscripted. I read a lot, and I meet with people a lot who are doing cool things. So I generally just share what I'm learning at the time, what I'm reading, what I'm feeling. I don't have notes and look down. I just 10, 15 minutes, bang, straight to camera. Is it perfect? No. I'm not a perfect speaker. None of us are. But I get it out there. Then my team takes it. Now, I didn't have a team at the start, but my team takes that. They get the transcripts from it. They look through for what are the little gold nuggets. Are there any little 20, 30-second clips from that? Can we create some reels and shorts for YouTube? Then that same piece of content, the transcript from that, helps formulate our weekly newsletter that goes out by email. That then also informs 7 up to maybe 14 at most pieces of written content for LinkedIn, for Facebook, for Instagram, all slightly different in terms of their approach. But that's exactly how we create 25 to 35 pieces of content every single week. And as I say, it was started with 3, and then 5, and then 7, 10. As the business grew, I had a little bit more cash to go, okay, I could get someone to help me here a little bit. I'm doing 60, 70-hour weeks. I'm going to burn out. So you get a 1 team member on part-time, and you keep building your team.
Cool. So before all of that happens, do you have a list of ideas that you know that you want to talk about next week, or is it purely off the cuff? Whatever comes to mind ends up on camera.
Yeah, so it's probably, to start with, was very, not scripted, but was very measured. So what I would do, and I would ask anybody to do this, it's called the 99 problems list. What are 99 problems that your ideal client have? And they should be questions. I don't know what to do next. I don't know where to go. I don't know how to get fit. I don't know how to do whatever it is. But write 99 of those out, those questions. And then there's 2 years worth of content, right? So we've got 52 weeks in a year. So 99 is roughly 2 years worth of content, 1 piece a week. And I will answer that question. Week 1, I'll answer that question with a 10, 15-minute video.
Right.
Here's my thoughts. Here's my experiences. Here's a story. And so you don't need to think week to week and panic and worry. You can just script it out. First couple of years, it's exactly what I did. Now I'm going back and re-answering those questions again with more experience, with more insight, with more stories. So it's not like you've got to come up with new pieces every single day, every single year.
That's brilliant. I'm definitely going to take that and give it a go. 99 Problems is there's a lot of content to talk through. I want to pivot into the podcast. How did that come about?
Yeah, so I'll be honest with you. I live in the O3, so I live in Christchurch, and I talk about the O3 mindset. And the O3 mindset is that you live, work, breathe, play in your backyard, wherever you live. That's the equivalent for you. And sometimes we get very small-minded. Sometimes we lose perspective. I was quite concerned that, I'm working with some of the highest performers in New Zealand and Australia. This was in the early days. I'm not going to be relevant for them. I'm not going to actually even be able to help them if I don't stay global. So I talk about living the O3, have the O3, life, but have a global mindset. And so I thought, how do I do that? Okay, I got to connect with others. I got to find out who's the best in their field globally, and I got to get them on the show. Got to talk to them. Why? Selfishly, I want to learn, because I cannot give what I do not have. So I can't give to my clients if I don't have knowledge, stories, experience, expertise, and I can't. I'm not born with all this, everything in my head. I'm very much a beginner, a learner in everything that I do. And so everybody that I meet, I'm asking questions and being curious. So the podcast was a very natural thing for me to do. For some, sitting in front of a camera with a person they might have never met before could be horrifically daunting and not fun at all. So it's not for everyone. For others, it's natural and it's fun. But I would say, give it a go. Start small, interview someone on your street who's done something cool, and do it with your iPhone setup. Keep it really simple. My first podcast episode, and it's still available on my Lead on Purpose podcast. You can still go right back to it. That was shot on my iPhone on Instagram Live. I'm being dead serious. Instagram Live. That's the very first one. It was a top NFL player from the States. And he's an American Ninja Warrior champion, amazing guy. But it was so simple. And we took the audio and pulled the audio and put it on the podcast. Start simple, just get started,
Yeah, I love that. Nothing better than simplicity and consistency to get going. So you started off by doing these Instagram lives. Did that go on for a while?
No, I pivoted real quick. Real quick. I tried it, tested it. Didn't love it. Why? It was unstable. Sometimes it dropped. It was distracting because people could be like commenting. So I wasn't fully engaged. I was looking at comments, and probably 2 episodes of that. And I was like, okay, we got to change the approach. So we just went to Zoom after that. Now we use Riverside, which you and I are on right now. We use Riverside for our international or non-Christchurch based guests. And then we do in person where possible, like your amazing studio, Dark Matter.
Always a pleasure to have you in here.
Oh, thank you.
And always a pleasure to be part of those behind the scenes conversations as well. So many gold nuggets that come out of that. So when did the podcast start? 2 or 3 years ago?
We're into our fourth year now.
Cool. And how did you go about growing? I mean, you're on some pretty amazing lists. I think top 10 or top 5 in New Zealand or in the business category.
So we're number 1 in New Zealand, and it's been almost every day for the last, number of weeks. But over this last year and a half, we've been number 1 in Apple Podcasts in the business management section. I think we're number 3 in the business section in New Zealand. We've had similar results in Australia, South Africa, a bunch of other countries. We're very fortunate. But it didn't start like that, Kaushik.
Yeah, of course. And I think you also mentioned on Tuesday that you're competing. Your next person on the list is Dave Goggins, which is quite an achievement on its own to be competing with someone on that kind of level. So how did you grow it from something that started off on Instagram Live to now, consistently being in the top 3 of some pretty decent sized lists? Walk me through the process.
Small, just really small daily commitments and just stacking those. I made a commitment that I was going to do it for 1 year, 1 episode a week. That's what was going to happen. And it was just interviews. I wasn't doing solo casts, 1 a week. Got to that year, had 52 guests. It's like, okay, that was fun. I learned a lot. I want to do another year. But I'm now going to do a solo cast and share my thoughts and views as well. So it went from 52 to then the next year we had 100 episodes that year. So there's 150 in the first couple of years. And so right away we're building consistency. We're starting to get, top 100 in New Zealand, top 50 in Lithuania. Like you get all these results coming in. You're like, wow, some people are listening. And it gives you encouragement. And so I just kept sticking at it year after year. And I just refused to go down the angle of paying for downloads. I get requests on LinkedIn and email regularly, as do my team members, saying, we can guarantee you an extra 5,000 downloads a week or a month. And I'm like, no, but I want listeners. I don't want downloads and charts. I want genuine people who listen, who get value and share the podcast. So I'm very happy to continue growing slowly. My growth is slow, it's gradual, it's compounding. And now I'm just starting to see some kind of rewards for that.
Do you well, I know the answer to this, but how do you repurpose the content from the podcast?
Yeah. So all podcast guests, whether they're prime ministers, presidents, Formula One drivers, people running small businesses, people who are authors, the one request is that it's a video. So we're either online or we've got a camera crew there. That video we then put on YouTube. We create a number of shorts and reels from that. We have a sizzle reel at the start, which kind of gets people hooked with some of the highlights from what they're going to hear in the episode. That's a great promo to get people excited for the episode that's about to drop. We then take the audio, pull the audio from that, and that goes straight up on Apple and Spotify. We use Buzzsprout to do that, really super simple platform to use. I'm very simple in terms of equipment, home equipment. I've got a Yeti Nano. I've got a Sony RX that's filming, got some simple lighting, some backlighting. Like, it doesn't need to be, anything flash at all. It just needs to be good equipment, set up properly. And then, we just repurpose through, scrape the audio, put the video up, take the key components, put it into shorts, reels, and then long form once a week on YouTube.
And how frequently do you post those reels? So you've got one podcast that you've recorded. I'm assuming you get 5 to 10 reels from them. And is that spread out over a year, or is it sort of leading up to it, or post-launch? How does it look like?
Generally, we only do the sizzle reel, like that, all the mini highlights, like 60 seconds of what's about to come. That'll come out the day before we drop the episode. And then we generally try to get 7 key highlights, 60-second highlights, and we'll post those the entire week, so one a day from that episode. And then 6 months down the line, the team will then pull something from that episode again to bring that episode back to life and get people's eyes back on it who may not have even been in our community 6 months ago.
Right. And that's on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, all the social platforms. Does it
100%.
Does it go out through your email newsletters as well?
Yeah, so we do one weekly newsletter. It took me like 2 years to figure out that I need to communicate with my people. So we've got several thousand people on our email newsletter. Once a week, they get me sending some tactics. Here's a few things that might help you with your sleep, with your, addictions, whether it's to coffee or alcohol or Netflix or your phone. Here's things that might help you with your leadership. We also put a little highlight of who our guest is. So like this week's guest was the CEO of Blockbuster a few years ago. And then sometimes we'll have a link to a book that I'm reading. But generally, I'll be honest, we would try and sell something on there once every 4 or 5 months. Right. Like, we probably could be selling more and promoting services and keynotes a lot more. But I'm a big believer in just keep giving, keep giving, listen to the feedback, keep giving. And then things start to land. You're like, oh, cool. Things are starting to land. So I don't really use it as a big sales tool. I'm sure a sales guy would say, James, you're an idiot. But I want to communicate. I don't want to be a salesman.
Brilliant. Just a quick segue. Newsletters. How did that come about, and how did you build that audience?
Yeah, so I had a mentor in the States, a guy called Brendan Burchard. Brendan works with Oprah Winfrey's team, the White House. Like, he's got incredible people he works with, but he's very smart at what he does. And so essentially he has a weekly newsletter that's gone out for 20 years. And he'd been saying to me, I was a mastermind with him, he's been saying, James, where's your weekly newsletter? Where's your weekly newsletter? I was like, God, I'm busy and nobody really wants to hear it. And I've only got 3 people on my mailing list. He's like, great. You speak a lot. You're on stages a lot. You've got 500-600 people on in an audience listening to you. Why don't you tell them, hey guys, I've got a newsletter, and if you like what you heard today, just go to my website and add yourself to the newsletter. And that just started to help build. And then I talk about it on the podcast. Hey, if you'd like to learn a bit more about what I've talked about today, join the newsletter. Don't miss out. So I promote it. Obviously, it's a free thing. It doesn't cost anybody, so I'm happy to promote it. So that's kind of where it started and where it's sitting right now.
Brilliant. What's the plans for the future? Is it same sort of direction that you're going at the moment, or are there pieces of content, things that you're working on in the pipeline?
Yeah, really interesting. Like, a big focus for me right now is a book. So I've been, over the last 5 to 10 years, building up ideas and thoughts around what that might look like. So essentially, I'm about 3/4 of the way through a book, working with an amazing publisher HarperCollins, and hopefully we'll end up going with HarperCollins, and that'll hopefully come out later in the year or mid next year.
Cool.
So that's a big, I look at that as content, right? It's like having a book is a huge content focus. So that's the big focus. Everything that I'm writing in the book, I'm currently talking about on the show with guests, in my shorts, all those things that I'm producing. I'm sharing different things I'm learning and putting in the book. So that's a really big focus, Kaushik. And I know that the book will be a big part of when I'm speaking, whether it's here in New Zealand or overseas. The book's going to be a big reason that people want me possibly to go and speak, because they may have read something in the book that has piqued their interest or maybe challenged them. And so that's the massive focus right now.
Cool. And two last questions. One is, who do you look up to in the podcast world?
Easy. Diary of a CEO, Stephen Bartlett. Look no further. Like, to me, it's North Star. If I could be, sitting close to him or on par with him one day, great. Like, he's just consistent, great guest, amazing studio setup. He's brilliant, and he's got an amazing marketing team behind him. So definitely, for the people watching and listening, please come and listen to my podcast, but definitely go and listen to his.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Last question is, if there's a business owner, marketer out there that is thinking about doing content as a key pillar of their business, what would you say to them?
Get radically clear. Before you start, get really clear on who you are. And there's three things you've got to know. Number one, what's the problem I solve? And it's got to be a one-word problem, not a big old fancy sentence. What's the one thing you actually solve? For me, that's mediocrity. If someone's experiencing mediocrity, come and see me. Let's chat. Mediocrity in your life, your business, your leadership. Let's chat. Next thing, what's your solution? Or another word for that, what's your uniqueness? Right? So what's the thing that you do that other people don't do as good as you? And again, it has to be one word, not a big old paragraph. What's the one thing? So for me, that's execution. Do the work, get after it. So I've got mediocrity is the problem. The solution or uniqueness is execution. And then a message. What's your message? And that's your internal mantra, the thing that you're like, it keeps me going. So Nike, just do it. So for me, it's get after it. Get after it. If you want high performance, get after it. If you don't get after it, you're going to be living in mediocrity. So for that person that's thinking about using content or getting on the content journey, one, stop and get radically clear on those three things. What's the problem I solve? What's the uniqueness I bring to it? And what's the key short, maybe 3 or 4 words, what's the short message, the mantra, the call to action that will help the people I serve?
Brilliant. There's been so many golden nuggets during our conversation today, and I can safely say that it'll be great to have you on at some point later on as well, and just have a look at what their growth looks like from here onwards. And of course, after your book as well, see how that's made a difference to the business, to your content, and to your audience. So James, massive thanks for coming on. Appreciate your time, and I look forward to having you on again.
Thanks a million, Kaushik.